morning, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Aftermarket, the way to profitability. My name is Roger Tyrell, and I'll be the host. I will now hand over to today's speaker, Mr. Martin Toreskog.
Hello, thank you, Roger. So my name is Martin, and I've been at PDSVISION for approximately 16 years. I was one of the first employees, actually, and I'm still here. So I guess that's a good thing. I've been working with CAD, with product lifecycle management, service lifecycle management, technical documentation, illustrations, and of course the significant platform that we will talk about today. So the agenda for today, I will start with some of the aftermarket challenges that we see that companies face today. I'll continue to talk about the purpose of implementing a web-based aftermarket platform, the general process of authoring and publishing to the web, and during the demo session, I will cover some of the customer cases like Väderstad, Rototilt, and Edilog. So, as you probably know, aftermarket is a high quality or high margin business. You already have a relationship with the customer since they purchased your products, and they often want to and need to buy from you. But that could become less profitable if it's not streamlined. So many companies still talk to their customers and resellers over the phone, trying to identify the correct spare parts, emails going back and forth. They look at CAD drawings to determine what parts are relevant, or traditional spare part manuals that may or may not be up to date. So when did the customer buy their product, and what information was relevant at that time? Have we interpreted the customer correctly, or will we potentially send the wrong spare parts? As products are getting more and more complex with mechanical information, electrical information, software, and not the least product configurations, companies struggle with distributing this product-related documentation and controlling the access to that information. And the risk is always that the customers find other sources where they can buy the spare parts. So the purpose of implementing a web-based aftermarket platform is, of course, to provide up-to-date spare part information and, of course, other types of documentation related to your product. To be able to control the access to that information so that, for instance, a service technician or a service provider has the service information, but you may not want to distribute that to all the users. Let the customer search and find the information instead of them calling you and you do it for them. To be able to filter the information based on, for instance, serial numbers, so the information is specific to a machine or a product. It should be easy to access the information through a web-based user interface. Or if the user is at a location where there may not be internet access, it should be possible to access the information through an offline version of the platform. It should be easy to create and manage the information. And of course, one major benefit is that you can sell more spare parts and make more money, basically. So significant is an application where you can author this type of information and publish that to different outputs like PDF or the web or the offline viewer. So you can work inside the significant manager and the significant application. But significant is also really, really good at importing information from other sources. So we know that this type of information may not be stored in one place. And during the demo, I thought I would cover some customer cases where we have the information in their PLM system. One has their information in the ERP system, CAD system, illustrations, and so on. So we know that the information often is spread out, but it should be possible to gather all of that information and publish that to one place. So the general overall process of authoring and publishing this information is, the first step is to manage the structures. So in one way or another, you start with, for instance, the engineering bill of material, and you create the service bill of material. It may not be as sophisticated as doing it in a PLM system, but in some way you create the parts lists, define what parts are spare parts and so on, and build the catalog structure. And then you create the illustrations connected to the parts list and add other types of documentation. And of course, you publish that to the significant platform in this case. So we will shortly move into the demo section here, and I will cover 3 customer cases. It's Väderstad that uses their PLM system to manage this information. It's a completely automated process, so they basically don't work in the significant platform. Then we have Rototilt that manages their information in their ERP system, and Edilog that mainly works inside the significant platform. So before we start the demo, Roger, can you just verify that everyone can see my screen and hear me?
It looks all right from my side, Martin, here. I can see your screen if that's what you're meaning.
Yep, perfect. And you can hear me.
And there's even the Väderstad parts catalog.
Perfect. So I'm now in the Väderstad parts catalog, and this is a public site, so it's available for anyone. You can browse and search and find the information. Typically, you would go here if you have one of their products, but if you want to take a look, it's available to you. Currently, I'm not logged in, but I will do that shortly. So Väderstad started this journey mainly from a wear parts perspective. So they identified that their customers found it difficult to find wear parts and difficult to buy spare parts from them. And they had other competitors that made it more easy for the customers to buy spare parts. So they have placed the wear parts on their front page or first page here. But of course, they have the different product families and categories here for everyone to browse. But I will start by going into the wear parts section here. And navigating here from the entry page will display all the wear parts for all their products. So it's not product specific. If I go into the disk section here, we can see the actual parts with the part numbers, the price, and some other metadata regarding these parts. Even if I'm not logged into the system, I can still add these parts to my shopping list. I cannot place an order, of course, then I need to be logged in, but I can still sort of collect my parts and download that information if I want to. So clicking this drop-down list here, we can see that I can add that particular part to my shopping list, or I could add the part in the context of a kit. In this case, it's 100 of the same parts. So if I would log in now, I will use my Väderstad account. And go into the same section again here. You can see that my shopping list has now turned into an order, and I can later view that order and place the order. The prices can vary as well based on my login. So in this case, I have a discount code based on my user. And now it says add to order instead of add to shopping list. So if I want to verify that this part fits my particular machine, I can go to the information page of this part. We can actually see that many of these parts are out of stock. So I guess they sell quite a lot of wear parts, but forget about that for now. So in the used in section here, I can enter the name of my machine. Let's say I have a Spirit 300 machine. I can verify that my serial number is valid for this part. And I can also navigate to the section or the parts list where this part is located. So let's say I need one of those as well. I can add that to my order, and maybe I need 4 of these guys here. And that is also possible to purchase in the context of a kit, apparently. So now I have 6 parts in my order basket. I can view this order. I can add more parts here if I want to. Let's add another disc, for instance, like so. I can also import orders. So let's say I have an order in, or the number of part numbers in an Excel sheet. I can drag and drop that onto this field here, and that will add the parts to my order. I can go further, select the order type and the, let's see. And the delivery method, and select my shipping address and so on. I will actually not place the order because then we will get an invoice. So placing the order will directly place it in their ERP system, and that process will start. So moving back to the first page here, I can also find that information and navigate to my product by using the browsing here. So I have the Spirit machine, I have my Spirit 300, and based on my serial number here, I can go into the different sections here. So let's say I have this guy here. Looking at the wear parts in this case will be a subset of the wear parts that we saw on the front page or the starting page. So these wear parts are specific to this machine and this serial number. So we can still find that particular part that I added to my cart before. So now if I instead go into the spare part catalog section here, we can see the system or product breakdown with different drawbars, adapters, and so on. And I can, for instance, go into the system disk and either navigate in the menu down here on the left, or click the sections or the callouts and navigate from the visualization like this, and eventually end up on that particular illustration and the lists where I added the screws and the arm and so on. So as I said in the beginning, it should be easy to find this information. So either browsing or of course searching for the information. And if I want to find a disk here, I can simply type disk, and it doesn't need to be the full sort of string. I can you sort of determine how many digits, when do we start the search. So everything is indexed in the system, and I can combine this with, for instance, if I know the diameter 450, and then I can find this information. Maybe I know it starts with 15, 6, and there I find my wear part. So it's simply typing the information into the search field, going into that, and then buy that part. Also, if I would search for, let's say, 300 and hit enter, when you type anything in the search field, it automatically searches. But if you hit enter, you can drill down into the search results. So you can filter on parts, on catalogs. And notice when I do this, other criteria for my search show up. So for instance, if I want to find my machine and it's a drilling machine, and then of course I can filter this based on name and so on, and eventually find my part, my document, my kit, my catalog, or whatever. all of this information is also translated. So Significant itself has approximately 30 languages that it's translated into. And that means that these menu texts and search and so on is translated based on my selection. But the company-specific information here, like wear parts and planting and so on, is translated by the customer or by our customer. So you can easily switch to, for instance, Swedish here, and all the text will then be in Swedish. So here you can see all the languages that they have translated into. So the authoring method that Väderstad has used is that they store and manage all of this information in their PLM system, Windchill. So they have the EBOM, they have all the CAD and documents and so on in there. And they use Windchill to transform the EBOM into an MBOM, into an SBOM, the service bill of material, where they define the spare part decision, which parts are spare parts. They also manage the illustrations based on the SBOM, which is associative. So any changes made to the SBOM will be automatically reflected in the illustrations. And Windchill every day identifies any objects, any parts, any catalogs, any parts list, illustrations, and so on that are updated, and it's automatically published every day to the Significant platform. So they basically they don't work inside the Significant application, but it's always up to date on the web. So this is what it sort of looks like in their Windchill system. So they have the exact same navigation structure as I just showed you, with the parts catalog in the top. They have tillage and drilling and so on, and wear parts. And eventually you come down to these orange things that are the actual parts lists. And when they create the parts list, they have this side-by-side view with the engineering bill of material on the left-hand side, the service bill of material on the right-hand side. They can restructure the information, and you have the visual support to identify if there are any changes made to the engineering bill of material, and then you can update your service bill of material. So they store the CAD information, the part definitions, the EBOM and SBOM kits. They take the spare part decision. The catalog structure, as you can see, is stored here as well. Serial numbers, part replacements, illustrations, and also translations. So everything is basically stored inside the PLM system. And then we fetch the prices and the availability from their ERP system. And the orders and the order history is also fetched from the ERP. And as I said, everything is open to everyone, but you need permissions to place an order. But you can basically navigate through the entire catalog without a login. So the next example that I want to show you is another Swedish company called Rototilt that develops and manufactures these tilt rotators that you put on a machine. And they have a similar categorized first page here. You can go into the tilt rotators, the R series, for instance. You have all the different products, and the Rototilt products are highly configurable. So these catalogs contain all the different variants, all the different options, and so on. And then you can navigate, of course, in the same manner as for Väderstad. They have a different look and feel than Väderstad, the Väderstad site. And of course, you can buy the spare parts and so on. These little guys here means that these parts have been replaced. So if I go into the information page of this part, we can see that this part is actually replaced by another part. So all of this information is also managed in their ERP system and published to Significant. What we've done at Rototilt is that the configuration of each order, since it's a highly configurable product, the ERP system stores the configuration, basically a serial number that contains the parts list that is relevant for that configuration. So in the search field, if I enter a serial number, we will ask a question to the ERP system that what is included in this serial number. So we get the order number, and clicking this node here will then take me to the catalog for that particular configuration. And in the same way, or at the same time when they placed the order for the product, they also added some other order rows like a relay kit and a handle kit and so on. And these are also displayed here. So clicking this will navigate to that particular catalog. But this catalog is not stored in significance, so it's dynamically built up based on the information in the ERP system. So if that is updated, this will always be updated. And then, of course, you can navigate to the different parts list. Perhaps you want to return to this page. You can easily add that as your favorite. Those will be stored up here, so you can view your favorites. Could be parts, it could be documents, catalogs, whatever. And you can also add it to the order directly from the favorites page here. So at Rototilt, as I said, they master their information in their ERP system. So they create the service bill of material or the parts list. They also create the entire catalog structure for each product in their ERP system. They take the spare part decision, and they use Adobe Illustrator to create the illustrations. They're currently moving over to Creo Illustrate, actually, in order to have the associativity between the CAD and the illustration. It's a little bit more manual process than at Väderstad, so they import the information and then decide when they want to publish that information. So it sort of looked like this. You have the engineering bill of material, and based on that, they create a service view of that information. And this is the actual parts list that is then published to Significant. So in the same manner as Väderstad, they store all of this information in one system. In their case, it's the ERP system. And then we have the serial number search integration. They do not have an integration to their ERP system in regards to prices and availability and placing the orders. So currently that is sent through email. This is also open to everyone, but they also, of course, have permissions to place orders. So another example that I wanted to show you is Edilog, and that is actually a restricted site, so you need to have a login to access it. And they have permissions for each customer, so they can only find their own products. And the interesting thing with Edilog, I think, is that they came into Significant when I think they had sold three products, 3 forklifts. So they make electric forklifts, quite a new company. And they saw the need for managing this type of information from day one, sort of. Now I think they're currently up to 6 or 7, So you can search for your product, and you can find the spare part information in the same way as for Väderstad and Rototilt. They decided to have the menu that you can expand it, and of course you can pin it if you want to, and then you can of course navigate in the same way and buy the spare parts and so on. If we go back to the catalog page, they also have downloadable software for updates to the software. They have the documentation here as well. Some of this documentation is stored in the significant database, like the workshop handbook. Let's go into this one, for instance. So they have that information here. And in the same way as we manage different languages for texts, if you have, in this case, it's a PDF. If you have an English PDF and a Swedish PDF and a German and a Finnish and so on, if you switch languages, the correct document will then be displayed. So other types of documentation, like the driver's manual here, is actually not stored in significant, but clicking this will open a new tab where they have it in a web-based format. So regardless if it's stored in significant or not, they still have all the information in one place. So what Edilog has used is that they have the bonds are managed in SolidWorks and SolidWorks PDM, but they have exported that information to Excel, where they take the spare part decisions and make the parts list. We import that into Significant. They use Composer to generate the illustrations, and they build the catalog inside the Significant platform, the Significant application, and they publish that information manually. So 3 completely different workflows or processes for managing the information, but the end result is always the same. Currently, they do not have an ERP integration, but they export the availability to an Excel file, and Significant will read that Excel file. So any updates to that will be displayed on the web. And as I said, they have the access is restricted, so you need login permission for each customer to view the information. So one thing that I also wanted to highlight is the documentation related to the context where it's valid. So in this case, it's another Swedish company called Ole that manufactures these loaders and so on. And if I go into here, they have a brand called Quickie. Let's go into this one, and let's go into maintenance kits for instance, and select this one. So what we can see here is that some of these parts have a reference icon to it. And in this case, it's a video that is actually a YouTube video related to this part. So it's possible to associate any type of documentation to a part list, to a catalog, to anything basically in the system. I will not click this because it will start with a commercial and maybe not so relevant, but clicking that will take you to the YouTube page. Vedesta has also used this for tutorials. So if you go to the tutorials menu here, you're navigated to their YouTube page where you can find how to navigate, how to search, and everything. So that sort of completes the demo section of this presentation. Of course, I haven't gone into detail about how they work in their PLM system or ERP system and so on, but of course we can have that as a separate section if you're interested. But what I want to highlight is that the content that is published can be stored in different systems. It doesn't need to be only one system. We can fetch information from different sources, but PLM, ERP, CAD, illustrations, Excel, and so on. And it's really easy to start. and you can start small. It doesn't have to be all of your product related documentation. It doesn't have to be all of your products from day one, and you can grow into the solution. And then it's highly configurable to enable functionality that you're sort of mature enough to use. And then, as I said, you can grow into the solution. And it's easy to change the look and feel, so it can look exactly the way that you want. So, Roger, that sort of completes the presentation.
So, and by that, I would like to thank Martin for today's presentation, and we'll see you soon in a webinar next to you, hopefully.
Thank you.